Hello and welcome. You are listening to the Gay with God podcast, a safe place for us to share our stories and support one another. How long did we know? What challenges did we face? Did we lose our faith? When did we find our way back home? Or are we still searching? The stories you hear on this podcast will melt your heart and strengthen your belief that in God, all things are possible, and you can be authentically gay with the God of your understanding. I am your host, Midge Noble, and I am very honored that you are here. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Gay with God podcast. I am Midge Noble, your host and the author of Gay with God, Reclaiming My Faith, Honoring My Story. If you want to pick up my memoir, you can get that anywhere that you buy books, and if you would like a signed copy, you can get that memoir on my website, gaywithgod.com, and I will sign it and I will send it out to you. So I hope everybody is managing your stress, that you're managing your sacred time, and that you're feeling a little bit more empowered even as things are changing on the daily. One of the things that I like to do is when I'm surfing on the social media, I love coming across new and inspiring people or groups that give us inspiration. And I found one called Daily Reminders from the Fire Horse. Now, I have never owned a horse. I've never been around horses very often. I did have some childhood experiences with horses that did not go great, but I love them and I feel like they're very sacred, and I know that they have healing powers. I've seen them do very therapeutic healings. I've seen them do amazing works with children who have not communicated to other people, but they would communicate with the horse, or they needed stability in their physical bodies, and they were able to learn balance and strengthen those leg muscles by being on the horse. It's just such an amazing connection that horses can have with people. And I've been told that, horses will lift their leg for people who have, a lot of power in their soul, that if they're really connected and they're really confident. But if you're not, and you go to lift the horse's leg, the leg won't go up. And it's a way to just test your own inner musings and strength and awareness of your own inner self. And I think that's just beautiful. So today, when I was going surfing, and one of the Fire Horse videos came up, and it just really, really resonated with me. The very first reminder was, you don't need permission to take up space. Isn't that interesting? You don't need permission to take up space. And I thought for a second, like, what kind of space would I need to go into that I would think that I would have to have permission for? Well, as a woman, we've always had to ask permission, haven't we? For generations and generations, we were having to ask permission to get a credit card. We had to ask permission to buy things because we were in the home and our husbands did the money. And even now, it's almost like we have to have permission to go into male-oriented spaces, to be, leaders, to play baseball, to, have money donated to the soccer or the hockey teams. It's like we're always asking people to give to us. But to remember that we don't need permission. Those who have been very successful women did what they did because that was who they were supposed to be. And they did it whether somebody said you could or not. And Amelia Earhart wore pants and flew a plane. There are women in our histories that have not needed to ask permission for anything, and they don't live small lives. They are empowered from within. It also talked about that you were built for hard ground, so act like it. Now, what does that mean to you? You were built for hard ground. And in the video, it showed a horse kicking up dirt and rolling around on the ground. And to me, that sort of spoke to me that we sometimes act more soft than we feel inside. Have you ever had that burning desire that you need to do something or you want to do something, but you kind of act like you don't really deserve it, or you act like you don't really want it, or it's okay if it doesn't happen. Those are energy markers that we send out into the world to tell the world and the universe that we don't really feel deserving of it, and so it's not going to happen. So if you want to act like you were built for hard ground, you need to show people what your stamina is. You need to show people that you are worthy of that and that you can handle it, because that is then your door opening for you. I love the next one that came up because it's talking about rest is not weakness, even fire needs fuel. And I loved that because that's what we've been talking about, in this podcast, is that we need to rest and renew, and we need to fill up our own vessel. And we do forget that. Sometimes we are pushing, and sometimes we are, going into places where we get a lot of pushback. And so there are times that we do need to take that sacred break. We need to just breathe. We need to take in the sounds and the sights of serenity somewhere, whether it's a picture inside your house of a beautiful place that you plan to go to one day, or a picture in your house of a place that you have been and it always brings you peace. Connect with that and allow that to fill your soul and refuel you, because then you will be able to generate your most authentic self and your strongest self. I remember that there were times that I was all gung-ho about this project or that project, or I'm going to do that, and people would just say, slow down, you're going too fast, you're going in too many different directions. And this next reminder for the fire horse is that not everyone will understand your pace. That's their problem, not yours. Now, my pace might have been erratic. It might have been putting my pots on too many fires, and I would get exhausted. And the things that people would suggest for me or guide me were probably very helpful, and I should have listened to some of it. However, if you are inspired and you're going at a pace that is your pace, people are not going to understand. They're always going to caution you about all of the things that could go wrong, all the things that might happen. I remember that my dad had an absolute fit when I quit a job, but I wasn't really sure if the next job was going to work out, because I was going into a private practice. I was leaving the mental health center, one, because I could see the writing on the wall and I knew it was going to not be a merger but a takeover. And so I went into a private practice that I would not own, but I would work at it, and I would only get paid based on the people that I saw. And so if I went from a paying job to this job, I didn't know when the money would start to roll in or how it was going to work exactly, but I knew in my soul that this is what I needed to do, and I just did it. And my dad could not understand why I would leave some kind of stability and just suck it up, and even if I couldn't do therapy there, I could be an administrator. No, I couldn't, because that's not who I am. But he just wanted me to have security. And his fear of not having enough, he tried to pass on to me. And even though I was terrified, absolutely terrified to do it, I still had that burning inside of me, knowing that this was the next step for me and that I needed to take it. So even though people may not understand your pace, they may not even understand your decisions, that's not up to them. This is up to you. And I'm not saying just go out there and not have a job at all. I'm just saying that you need to make sure that you're listening to your soul and your heart and checking in with the God of your understanding. And if you get that nudge and you know this is the next step, the other people don't get a vote. I want you to think for a moment about the burdens you've had in your lifetime, about the trials that you've been through. I don't want you to discount them, because the next wisdom from the fire horse is that you've carried heavier. You'll carry this too. Well, when I look back at the life that I've had, there have been some absolutely joyous, amazing, God-filled and love-filled experiences in my life. I am so happy to look back and see how much I've traveled. I've looked back and I see how many connections I've made. I look back and I see all of the wonderful connections that I made on those little trips that I would take and do this and that. Not just the trips like going to different countries, but the trips that I would take when the nudges happened, when I felt the nudge and I would take off and go in this direction and do this for a while. And then when the nudge began to fade and I felt the nudge going in another direction, every time I went in another direction, by the listening to the nudges, I was able to find something in that experience. Always there was something that I knew that I was on target and meant to do it, and that's why I was there. It wasn't always perfect, but I knew that it was exactly what I needed to be and do in that moment. So it will get heavy sometimes. The journeys that we are on is going to get heavy. It's heavy right now, just trying to be, kind and empathetic and positive and letting all of this bad stuff not take us over. But we've been through heavier things. Sometimes the heavier things we don't think about as much anymore. Like, I don't think about how my dad wouldn't listen to my voice after I came out. I don't think about the calls that Mama gave to my spouse and myself, saying that we're going to hell and that this is wrong. And I don't think about those things on a daily basis, or hardly at all, unless I talk about it for a specific reason. Those were heavy loads. Those were heavy experiences. There are things in my past that just broke my soul in a place, and I don't know if it's completely healed. Sometimes I think it's still a little raw in there, but I've carried those loads, and I can carry whatever is now. Whatever's happening now, I can carry that too. I love this next one because it says, stop waiting to feel ready. Ready is a myth. Move anyway. And that's kind of how I've lived my life. I've never felt ready. I didn't feel ready to go to India, even though I knew that I absolutely had to do it. I was scared to death because I was a chubby white girl that had never been anywhere out of the country, and I was going to fly. After 2 weeks of hellacious boot camp in Florida, we were going to fly to Rome and have a layover and then go to India to build a church for a couple of months. This was totally out of my wheelhouse. I was not fit enough to do manual labor. I was white skinned, and we were going to be out in the sun. There were so many reasons that I shouldn't have gone. There were menstrual issues that happened. I mean, it was just, of all of the things that I shouldn't be doing, was going to do a work camp like that in a foreign country. And yet, even though I wasn't ready, I did it. I survived all the health problems. I survived all of the heat. I survived swimming with apparently a crocodile that was in the lagoon that we were doing some kind of water safety class for whatever reason, because we were not going to be around water on this trip to build a church. But anyway, all of the things that went wrong, that could go wrong, all of the things that were super, super, super hard, I was not ready for any of that. And yet, as they say, with God's help, I will, in our baptismal vows, with God's help, I did. I stayed the course. I wasn't happy about it sometimes. I was really doubting my decision and regretting my decision sometimes. But when I look back, that was the shift for me. That gave me the confidence to do the rest of me. And if I had not gone to do that church, I probably never would have gone to college. I probably never would have done what I was supposed to be doing now, because it would have changed the whole trajectory of my life. And so I'm really happy that I did not wait to feel ready, because I don't think ready would have ever come. And I think that sometimes you just have to bite the bullet, and you've got to dive in and just go. The next little words of wisdom says, the ones who doubted you, they're still standing at the fence. And you can take that any way you want to take it. The way I take it is that the people who are always warning you of all the dread and the things that could happen are just as fearful as you are. And so their life may be smaller in comparison to your life, not better or not worse. It's just that they live in a smaller box and you've opened up the barn door, so to speak, and you are out in the field while they're still standing at the fence or the barn door, and they're saying, look at how can she do that? She can't do that. That's good. And they try to diminish what you're doing. The thing is that it may not always go perfectly. And those types of people are usually right there to point that out to you. But even in the unperfectness of it, there is still lessons to be learned. You're still growing. You're still getting strength. You're still putting yourself out there. And there is a lesson in absolutely everything we do. There's a lesson in everything we don't do. It takes you down a whole nother path. But the lessons that we get that are the most valuable usually come out of messing up, taking a wrong turn, learning from that, doing it differently. So there are no downsides to trying something, because it is always a lesson, even if it's not the lesson you thought you would learn or the big shebang that you thought you would get, but it's all still extremely valuable to your inner strength and your soul. And the next one says that your scars are not damage, they're proof you showed up. So there are going to be struggles. I can't say that enough. There are going to be struggles. If you're bold enough to go out there and do the thing that you feel called to do, there will be struggles. And you might have scars, emotional scars, physical scars, God forbid. Yeah, there may be times that your heart breaks completely and you have to rebuild it. The one quote that I remember from years and years ago, someone had said that if the person is not in the arena with you, they don't get a vote. And what that means to me is that they're not living your life. They don't know your choices. They don't know what you're being called to do. They don't know anything about you. They're looking into the arena from the bleachers, and they're not living that life. They have nothing invested in it. They just want to be a naysayer. So even though you get scars, that doesn't mean that you screwed up. It doesn't mean that you did something wrong. It meant that you proved to yourself that you followed what you were intended to follow at that moment. And when it stops working for you and there's another direction to follow, that's when you'll get the next nudge. And that's where the next lesson will come. How many of you right now are feeling exhausted, are feeling overwhelmed, are feeling like you just can't even stand to hear my voice right now because it seems too hard? And I get it. I totally get it. But that doesn't mean that you are not going to do it. Because the other sage wisdom from the fire horse says that some days you won't feel like a fire horse. Show up anyway. The fire is still there. When we go into recuperation mode, when we take that break that we all need to take to refuel ourselves, that is when we feel like we're not accomplishing anything. However, we forget that we are giving ourselves the fuel that we need for the next step we will take. So even though you may feel out of the game, you may feel like you're wasting your time or that nobody's paying attention and that nobody's getting what you want to offer, it's because you're resting. And maybe the next decision is that you're going to go in a different direction, and those people may be part of the plan. You know, I always said that doing this podcast, when people stop listening, I'll stop speaking. And that hasn't happened yet. And so I love what I do. I love the coaching I do. I love this podcast. And whether or not other people understand it or want to hear it, or some people just want to reject it totally, that doesn't make me change my mind, because the thing that will change my mind about what I do is when I'm not effective anymore or when I'm not enjoying it anymore. The only reason I won't be enjoying it anymore is because if nobody's listening, why do it? And if nobody needs the coaching, then I'm retired. So it's okay to know that showing up means that you may not always feel like you're on top of your game, and there might be a shift coming, or it may just be that you're taking a break and you're resting. Whatever you do, do it with the most upbeat enthusiasm that you can bring to wherever you're going and whatever you're doing. The fire horse wisdom says you are not too much. You are exactly enough, and the right ones already know it. So we don't have to play small. We don't have to play meek. We don't have to be mild. We can have the gusto that is burning inside of us, and we can express that outside of us. We know exactly who we need to be. And if anybody can't take it, they're going to disappear. And that's okay. So be exactly who you are, because that is enough, no matter what. On our journey, remember that the God of our understanding is always working behind the scenes. And I do believe that the Holy Spirit nudges us, and she is always right. And the nudges, even though they may not be easy and the road may be dangerous sometimes, she knows what we need, and she knows when to nudge us about it. And she won't give up, by the way. She's very, very, very pushy. And so if you get a nudge, as I've said before, don't wait till she needs to knock you upside the head. Take the first nudge, or at least the second. Because if you're meant to do something, that thing that you're meant to do is not going to go away until it's actually done. And you may not ever know until you look into hindsight, because I never knew what was going to come and what I was going to learn. I just knew that I needed to go. And when I did go, it always, even though it was sometimes very, very difficult, it always turned out to be exactly what I needed at the time, even though I never knew it. So, is there fire within you? Absolutely. And are you ready to unleash that fire? I hope so. And it could be as simple as talking to somebody that you've been afraid to talk to. It's maybe asking for something that you need and you've been afraid to do that. It could be that you're going to go march somewhere to push back about taking away the right to vote for our black brothers and sisters. It may be that you go marching to protest something else entirely. It may be that you don't march at all, but you might join an organization to send money to people who need the money to continue the cause and the work that needs to be done in this country. Whatever it is, that's that fire that's burning in you, whatever is driving you crazy, find a way to get yourself invested in that. Whether it be writing to your representatives, whether it be marching, sending money, sending cards to people that you know aren't having any luck getting through to people and you just want to boost them up a little bit. There are no small things to do right now. Everything we do matters. The one thing that we can't do is do nothing. We have to do something. And only you know what you're called to do. But we are all called to do something in this crisis that we're living through in the United States. And if you're not in the United States and you're listening to me, you know how bad it can get to not have a democracy. Or you may know how bad it is to have a leader that is not for you but only for themselves and for their evil decisions. So for those of you in other countries who listen to this podcast, number one, thank you. And I also appreciate that you've lived through tough times too, and you've had leaders that were absolutely horrible. So we can all relate to being under somebody else's thumb in some way or another. And even though I've not walked the walk that my black brother and sisters have, we've all had something that has kept us down or held us back. And we can relate to it. Even though we've not walked in their shoes, we can relate to it. So in my fire horse persona right now, I am fired up and I am angry and I am always sending money to somebody to help with the cause of something. And I definitely am not going to be silent. If you've seen my post, you know that I'm not silent. My voice is always saying something, or I'm reposting something, or I'm sharing something. And that is one of the ways that I keep it out into public, because I don't want anybody to not know how bad it's getting, how bad it can get. And even if it doesn't make a hill of beans of difference right now, it's still something that I can do, and I will not back down. So back to y'all. Find your fire. find your passion. Know that you are enough, and however you show up is exactly where you're supposed to be. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for sharing, subscribing, commenting, and putting this podcast out to literally other countries. I mean, you're sharing it, other people are picking it up, and your comments continue to mean so much to me. If you want to know more about me, you can go to the show page at empoweredmidge.podbean.com, scroll all the way down to the bottom, and you can see where I am on social media. You can find a link to the memoir. You can also find a complimentary free coaching session for us to get to know each other and decide whether or not whatever issues you're working on, whether it's your faith journey or coming out, or just living through this hassle and this mess that we're dealing with, and you need a little coaching, that will be the time for you to get a free session and see where we land. Check out our Facebook group on Facebook called Gay with God, where we do a monthly Zoom group entitled My Faith Journey. And that's a great place to get support from other people. Sometimes we talk about really serious things. Sometimes we just laugh and talk about our day. It's just a good Zoom place to be where we are together and we're there for each other. If you are listening to this podcast and are questioning whether you can be gay and be in a relationship with the God of your understanding, if you identify as LGBTQIA+, or not even sure if you are gay, God has always been within you. Even when you didn't know it, you have always been gay with God. Thank you, everybody. Stay tuned to see how you can join the Gay with God community. And as always, you are loved. I want to invite you to become a part of the Gay with God community. How can you do that? Stay connected by messaging me your thoughts and comments in the comment section under the downloads of the show on the Gay with God show page. Subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen and share so we can increase our community outreach and be a light to those who are struggling to claim their faith. Consider being a sponsor so I can highlight your service in our community. We are all worthy of respect and a relationship with the God of our understanding. I want to thank you in advance for supporting this podcast. Together, we as a community will keep this show visible and our community stronger. Deep gratitude to my friend Tim McClendon of Tim McClendon Music for allowing me to use an excerpt from Interlude 4, a song found on his CD entitled Sundance.